data back and forth with the back-end ERP system. So that creates some security, and it also removes the requirement to have the public directly hammering, for example, on your production SQL server, right, where all of this data is stored. That makes sense. That makes sense, right? So, how many people here in the room are technical? Actually, I should have asked that up front. How many people here are technical? Yeah, okay, about half. All right, so if I'm losing any of you with any of this stuff, please let me know. Okay. All right, so that, yeah, the last component at which I was just talking about this integration is this connectors and gateways. So you can connect that common data service to all sorts of services. This last thing here, pro-dev extensibility, what that's simply saying is if you are going to get into development, you can do some, you can extend that even further with a level of development. Some things that you do still require some level of complex development. So I'll give you one example. We're in the work we're doing for Belize, we have a power app that we created. And what we wanted to do was interface it to a scanner, right? Like a scanner, like a 3D scanner to capture barcode, right? But they don't, out of the box, there's no connector for the common data service to actually speak directly to that scanner. So that means you have to write an interface between the power app and the scanner. So that required somebody to write code to do that. But I mean, when you look at the grand scale, we're doing a little bit of pro development, in the grand context of this bigger app. So this here little chart is intended to kind of give an explanation around why Power Apps makes sense for a lot of organizations. So the bar on the left here is talking about external versus internal apps, and then this the x-axis there is talking about professional developers versus citizen developers. So traditionally, when we were developing products, you had developers that have to be versed in these .NET or C programming. It's very high skilled. It requires people that are highly skilled in those areas. And then over time, there's technologies that have been developed to try to make it easier for us to create applications. Some of this started a long time ago. Anybody here use Access? Microsoft Access? So that's actually been around since I almost started in the IT industry. I was working in Access, in the 90s, right? So you can do a lot with that tool, but it's not very scalable, right? Once you get in a lot of users, it kind of has problems. And it's amazing. That's usually what you find. You go into an organization, you find some guy developed an Access or a woman developed an Access database in there. They've been using it for 6, 7, 8 years. Database is too big. They have problems. They need to move it to something else. Power Apps is like the modern version of Access, and it is completely scalable. So you can use it in a very small organization, and it can be used at scale in the largest organizations in the world. All right. So if you think of Belize, the example there, they're not as populous as Trinidad. There's about we've got about 500,000 records in that database for individuals, about 10,000 companies, and then contribution records in the millions, many millions over years, because you have to talk about potentially one contribution record per person per month, for their lifetime. So these, then there were other apps that were developed. The Xamarin, I don't know if anybody's familiar with that. It's an app that you use to build mobile apps. A development environment for building mobile apps. So the idea is you can build a mobile app and it'll work on iOS and it'll work on Android. You can do it once and it'll work on both platforms. Cordova, I'm not so familiar with. But then we're looking at sort of the current version of development, and that's where Power Apps and Power Automate comes in. So now what they've done is tried to dummy down the requirements to build these applications. Okay, so you can do it in an interface that looks a lot like kind of working almost in SharePoint, it's almost like building slides in PowerPoint. Okay. So here's one example where they used, they wanted to extend Office 365 and SharePoint. And what they did is they built an app for NASCAR. And they, so this is just kind of a quick information, a quick reference guide that they wanted to create. So it shows what races that are going on, and you can click on the race and see some information about it, the track map or whatever, the parking scenarios and stuff. So that's just a kind of a simple example of a Power App, right? Come back to this slide. Okay, so again, coming back to how you're going to store data from the app, the common data model is the easiest way, okay? And it talks a little bit about this operational data store here, but there's really, there's two ways Microsoft is providing availability. Common data model is one. You might have heard something called a data lake that they make available in Azure. So that's another option for storing your data as well, okay? It will work with both on-prem and in the cloud data. So the common data service is provided by Microsoft in the cloud. But if you needed to interface it to your on-prem SQL Server database or whatever, you can do that as well. Okay. And then for APIs, this is where they do provide pro development tools. So you can actually create like plugins or add-ons or little modules in there where you have to develop and code, but then you can make it available within the Power App. And the last component they just added there is security model. And this is very important because if you're developing an application from scratch, right, it's not only building the app, you have to build in things like security, right? But to build that from zero, that's very complex, that's a lot of work. It really isn't feasible in a lot of cases. Which is why what you'll see is in-house developed applications, that's usually an area that's kind of doesn't get a lot of attention. So you'll see this, maybe this app that the organization is using, but it's not locked down, it's not really secure. That doesn't happen with Power Apps. It has an enterprise-grade security model. So you can create security roles in there. You can define which users have access to which parts of the functionality. It includes audit capabilities. So that's already built in. You don't have to be, you're not creating that. That's part of what's available in the Power Apps platform. So the next little topic here is about automating processes with the CDS, that's called Common Data Services, and other applications that are connected to it. So in this particular example, it was an industrial or IPS, large provider of electric motor servicing and repairs, okay? So they were not able to get off-the-shelf software, so what they did is they developed a custom process for automating this, okay? Okay, so what they do is they store information about these motors that they bring in their system. They have their ERP integrated into CDS. Here's another example, actually, probably a little more meaningful. This one here is optimizing the beverage supply chain. So what they've done is they've actually integrated, they will install like a beer dispensary devices, like those taps, right? They'll install those in restaurants and stuff like that, but they're all hooked in to the cloud. So they can actually keep track of what restaurants, how they're using, how the beer consumption is. And then they have an app that they can go in and see how people are consuming the beverages, and it also lets them know when they have to service the equipment, or when they got to go and refill the supply. Okay, this is getting too complex. This is too technical. All right, I already mentioned the security here. The other thing with Power Apps is that you can use it on any device. So if you go into if you use Android or iOS, you go into the App Store, you can download, if you do search for Power Apps, you'll find it, and then you can download that. So when you deploy an app in your organization, that's where your users are going to go to use your app. They're going to go into the Power Apps app, and then whatever apps you've made available to those users to use, they're going to see there and then be able to interact with it. Okay. And same thing applies on the PC, so they can log into a PC and use it there as well. Now, I'm going to play another video. This is specifically about Portal. So this is something that came later, about the last year actually. So what Microsoft has done is they've made a portal, and actually this portal used to be used in the D365 side of things. So we've been using it for a number of years. So the idea is that a Power App is great. You have the app on your phone or your tablet, and typically those are users inside your organization that are using those apps, because the licensing is by user or by app. So if you had one app and you wanted to make it available to 10 users, what you would do is you would buy an app license for 10 users. And an app license is about 10 US per month per user. So that would cost you for 10 users to use that app, $100 a month. Okay? Now the other license type is a user license. So if you have a user license, you can use as many apps as you want. Right? And that license is about $40. So once it comes down to how many apps you're developing, right? So when the idea Microsoft didn't want, some people are only, when you get into it, you're going to build one app to start. So instead of a $40 starting point, you're looking at a $10 starting point for your first app. Once you've got more than 4 apps in use in your organization, it would make sense to switch from the per app license to the per user license. Well, for any users that are using more than 4 of them. But what about the public? What about your customers? How are they going to interact with this stuff, right? Because you certainly don't want to be buying $10 or $40 licenses for all your customers. So this is where the portal comes in. So a public-facing portal, for example, either one that's truly public, where anybody could go and just go to the portal and interact with it, or maybe one where your customer could log in and interact with it. Maybe for customer service type stuff, or maybe to submit a case, or maybe to ask you questions, or maybe to look at information that you want to make available to them. So this here overview just talks a little bit what the portal can do.
Microsoft Power Platform helps businesses in their digital transformation. It makes it easy to build the applications, workflows, and dashboards that your business needs. I'm happy and proud to introduce Portals, a new capability of the Power Platform. Portals allows you to create low-code, responsive websites that interact with data stored in the Common Data Service and share with users external to your organization. Focused on both security and ease of function, Portals helps you empower any audience, inside or outside your organization, to engage with your business data and processes through self-service interactive websites. Portals gives you the power of data and allows your customers, partners, and employees to access it in a secure and easy way.
Portals open up a whole new way to access Power Apps and data in the Common Data Service, and that includes completely anonymous browsing by people outside of your organization, or the ability to log in with a wide variety of authentication providers. As a Portals user, I can log in with my Facebook account, or my Google account, or my Microsoft account, or my LinkedIn account, and that means that if you're already using CDS, you have data in the Common Data Service, you can start to take all of the information and the concepts and artifacts you're already using, forms, views, dashboards, charts, and expose them to a much wider set of users right away without a lot of additional work. If you're not already using the Common Data Service, Portals are a great reason to get started. CDS offers a rich relational business database that's surrounded by a sophisticated enterprise-grade security model, as well as business logic and rich modeled components on top of the data that you store in CDS. Now, all of that can be made available to completely external users using Portals. That means these are not just simple static websites. Portals, with the power of CDS under the hood, can accomplish sophisticated business scenarios like partner management, customer self-service, as well as more straightforward websites like FAQs. Users of your portal can browse content that you choose to make public completely anonymously. And with the power of many auth providers, it means you can tailor a completely personalized experience when a user does log in. As a portals user, I can see just my accounts, or my upcoming appointments, or my service requests, an experience that's completely tailored to my identity. And of course, this is Power Apps. It means the entire experience is low-code, end-to-end. In fact, there's a completely new portal designer at powerapps.com that lets you do everything from customize the look and feel and branding of your portal, put your own company's identity at the top, to integrating assets over the common data service like forms and views right in line. And with clicks more than code, you can build a completely responsive portal quickly. It'll look great on your phone, all the way up to the largest of screens. Portals are just the latest entrant to the Microsoft Power Platform. And of course they work great with everything else that's already there. Build Power BI right into your portal. Use Microsoft Flow right in the context of your portal as well. All of this powering digital transformation in your organization for a wider and wider set of audiences and use cases. So what are you waiting for? Give portals a try today at powerapps.com. We can't wait to see where you can take it next.
So again, the idea here is, a portal like this traditionally, if you wanted to create a portal for your organization that was going to run to the public, that's usually a pretty complex and costly endeavor, right? You're going to either, you'd have to organize with a developer or an external party to build that, or maybe you had the skills, if you had a team of developers who could do that type of web development and build it internally. But with Power Apps and the portal, you can do a lot of that, but again, with almost no code. So you can manage a lot of it yourself. So that what that means is something as simple as, you might have a form there where you're capturing information from one of your customers, and you realize, there's an additional piece of information I want to capture from this customer. So you want to put a new field on that form, right? In the old way, that probably would have meant calling your provider and saying, hey, can you go update this web page? And they would have had to do that work, and then they would have come back and said, okay, it's complete, and you would have had to have paid probably some significant amount of money for that. But in Power Apps, that's a 2-minute proposition. Adding a field is very easy to do. Dropping it on the form is literally a drag and drop function. So making changes to that portal now becomes something that you can manage by your own IT teams, as opposed to paying a lot of money to an external provider to do that for you. Okay. And that's why also, like, if you go look at all the case studies online, you'll see a lot of case studies, but you're always looking at the customer. There's not too often when they talk about the partners in it. Obviously, Davyn, we're in the business of supporting our customers on these platforms. So we're there to help you if you need it, but you can do a lot of it on your own, right? All right, so maybe at this point, if we want, we can take like a 5-minute bio break if anybody wants to take a quick break. And then what we'll do is when we get back, we'll get right into, I'll show you some scenarios of where we're actually doing some of these things and what it looks like. Okay.